Today's episode is an interview with Dave Jackson. He's a podcasting coach, podcast host, and author. If you're new to the show, I've mentioned Dave Jackson before. This is the man who helped me plan and launch my podcast. You're listening to the Pharmacist's Voice podcast, a journey-style podcast about my career change from pharmacist to voice actor. I'm your host, Kim Newlove. I alternate solo shows and interview shows. The solo shows are about my career change, and the interview shows feature a variety of people who use their voices to advocate, educate, or entertain. I specialize in medical narration and e-learning. If you have a project in mind, contact me through my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. Thank you for joining me for episode 79. Let me tell you a little more about my guest, then we'll dive right into our interview. Dave Jackson began podcasting in 2005. His School of Podcasting show has over 2.5 million downloads. To learn more, visit schoolofpodcasting.com. Dave has helped hundreds of people plan, launch, and grow their podcasts, and he is the author of the book Profit from Your Podcast: Proven Strategies to Turn Listeners into a Livelihood. Dave is also a featured speaker at events. In 2016, Dave joined Libsyn, the largest podcast hosting company, as part of their tech support team. In 2018, he was inducted into the Academy of Podcasters Hall of Fame. Find all of his shows at powerofpodcasting.com. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Dave Jackson. Hi, Dave. Welcome to the Pharmacist's Voice podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Kim, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Dave, you are the person that taught me how to start a podcast. Thank you so much for everything that you've ever done for me. You do so much. You advocate, educate, and entertain. I invited you on the show to talk about how you advocate for the power of podcasting, how you educate people on launching a podcast and getting profit from their podcast. You've got this brand new book out. We're going to talk about that. And you are certainly entertaining through your many podcasts and so much that you do and say in coaching sessions and office hours. So welcome again to the show. And where would you like to start?
Where would you like to start? What not to do with a podcast? I mean, there's two ways to do that, right? Like, here's why you should podcast. If your first question to me is, hey, I'm not sure what to talk about, so what can I talk about that's going to make the most money in the shortest amount of time? I will go, yeah, I'm not going to be your client or you're not going to be my client, because that's just not the way it works. Podcasting, if you want to monetize, takes a little bit of time. If you pick a subject because you just want to make money, let's say somebody said it was, I don't know, pygmy pony racing. Okay, I don't know anything about pygmy pony racing, and I'm not going to be that passionate about it. It's going to be work to talk about that, so that means it's not going to last. And if you're just getting into podcasting for money, not that there's anything wrong with money. I like money, but it just, when I see people do that, I just go, yeah, you kind of don't get it. So that would be one place to start. Here's why you shouldn't start a podcast.
Well, I remember when I was looking for a podcast coach, I found you on YouTube. Did you know that? Do you remember that?
I did not know that. So that lets me know I need to do more YouTube videos. And that's actually something people go, should I do YouTube or should I do podcast? I really think those are two separate audiences, because I know some people that know everything there is to know about PewDiePie because they're all about YouTube. And then other people know everything about Joe Rogan and Mark Maron and podcasting and Adam Curry. But in some cases, they're only in their own little bubble. And so if you do a podcast, maybe you should do a YouTube as well, because you're going to end up reaching, maybe in some cases, two audiences that may not know you if you just stay in one spot.
I've heard that YouTube is the second biggest search engine out there. Have you ever heard that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's completely different, because with podcasting, if you're just doing audio, you will occasionally get feedback. Usually it's good. And on a rare occasion, you will get somebody that goes, you're kind of boring. But that's very rare. YouTube, you put out a video and it's, if somebody doesn't like what they see, because it's somewhat anonymous. And so they can easily say, oh, this guy's a hack and don't listen to him and blah, blah, blah. So it's like you have to have a little thicker skin if you're going to do YouTube, because they are not shy from leaving comments, and it's also slightly easier to leave a comment on YouTube, so you get a little more.
Well, once I found you, I knew you were my guide because you just had all these steps, and it led me to your program. You have an online course, the School of Podcasting, and for a pharmacist. I am such a pharmacist where I like things all logical and organized in order. And you were a guide with a plan. You have this course, and I would love for you to talk about this because so many pharmacists and medical professionals and even some voiceover folks have asked me about my podcast. How'd you get started? And all signs point back to you. So can you tell us a little bit about the School of Podcasting?
Yeah, there are a couple things. There are, as you mentioned, there's step-by-step courses. So I take you everything. Really, the first one, and it's actually the largest course, is all about planning your podcast, because that's really, if you just wing it, it's just probably not going to work. So you have courses, and then you have a private Facebook group, which it's kind of a brainstorming area where you can go in and say, hey, here's my new artwork. What do you think? And things like that. So you have all these other podcasters in there. And then as a teacher, my background's in teaching. I never want to hear somebody say, I'm ready to throw my computer out the window. I don't know what's going on. This isn't doing what I wanted it to do. And I hate to hear that frustration. So I started these things called office hours where you can just come in and get your question answered. And if need to, I'll show you what to do. And of course, I always answer things via email. And a lot of times in email, I will actually make you a video and say, hey, here's what it is. In some cases, if I just need to answer it via my voice, I will still do a video because I talk much faster than I type. So we do that. But really, if you're starting it, the thing you have to figure out is, why am I starting a podcast? And then who am I podcasting to? And really, the clearer picture you have on who, that can really help. And then, so why am I doing this? Who is this for? And this is the tricky part. What can I talk about that's going to hold their attention that will also help me achieve my why? And so that gets that's kind of and that's where you get into things like courses and coaching and selling books and things of that nature. And it's one of those things that along the way, you're going to find out that, I designed this for person A, and I am getting some person A, but it turns out person B also likes this as well. I did a weight loss show, and for some reason, I just thought it was going to be guys trying to lose weight. And I just kept getting more and more feedback, and they were all female. And I was like, oh, that's good to know. And so the more you know your audience, then you can kind of make content that they go, oh, wow, this is really cool. And if you do something that's somewhat niche, it's kind of a narrow thing. And I kind of say that podcasting, although we like to say it's like radio's fairly broad. I mean, they're talking about news of the day and sports and money and things like that, where podcasting is a little more like, what do you call it? Cable TV. So you get these super, the Weather Channel and Animal Planet. And there's one channel, I don't actually know what it's called. I just call it the Dead Channel because everybody on it is dead. It's all black and white movies and things like that. So you just kind of like, oh, like, look, it's John Wayne. Yeah, he's still dead. Okay. And now this one has Gary Cooper and all this. It's old people, old movies, things like that. And so that's kind of what podcasting is. I think some of my favorite is I had a guy on my show that does a podcast about chameleon breeding. And I said, did you say chameleon breeding? And he goes, yep. And what was interesting about it is he makes cages for chameleons. So it's all about, how to raise them, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, yeah, he goes, the manufacturer I'm working with asked me, can you please quit mentioning the cages because we can't keep up? He goes, so I'm thinking of cutting back on my podcast. And I go, no, my friend, this is working. You get a new manufacturer. It's like, holy cow. So it's those types of things with super niche podcasts where you'll find somebody and they think they're alone in the world. They're like, oh, I'm the only person that knows what it's like to be adopted, or I'm the only person with some sort of disease or things like that. And then you find a podcast and you find out that there are other people going through the exact same things that you are. You're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only person going through this. And now you find your community. And it's hard to put like a price tag on that. When you take somebody who feels alone and now they don't, I mean, that's amazing. And that is, again, that's the power of podcasting.
Awesome answer. When I was first starting to think about starting my podcast, you and I had a private coaching session. I can't remember how long we talked. And I just talked to you and I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but somebody that I know, like, and trust told me that I should start a podcast. What do you think I should do? Of course, you said, oh, I can't tell you what to talk about, but have you considered this? Or have you considered this type of podcast? And I think eventually talking to you and reading Kristen Meinzer's book, I think I'm saying her name right, I realized that there's this thing, a journey style podcast, where you talk about you on your journey to learning something and you share that with other people. You don't have to be an expert. And I like that because I'm not an expert yet, but I'm the only pharmacist, voice actor who's got childcare issues because of a child with a disability who can share that story and not play the victim card and just share with everybody how I'm doing what I'm doing. And you were like, yeah, you can do that. And when I entered the school of podcasting and I realized that you had these office hours and these lunch with Dave things, I realized how accessible you are as a coach. And you're exactly what I needed. And the reason I'm talking about this is that if there's anybody that's new to the podcast, I want you to know this is how I built my podcast. I got help because I couldn't do it myself. Somebody that I know, like, and trust said, yes, you should have a podcast, but I didn't know what that should mean to me. Dave Jackson didn't tell me what to do. He told me what options were out there. He exposed me to a community of great podcasters through his Facebook group. And I got to meet all kinds of people at meetups and office hours and lunch opportunities. And I figured it out. It didn't take too long. And after meeting you the summer of 2019, I think that's when it was. Yeah, the summer of 2019. And then I joined the School of Podcasting, I think in September or October, did all the coursework in October. And then I grew the podcast, I built the podcast in November, and then I launched in December. I felt like as a pharmacist, it had a nice logical flow. And pharmacists like logical steps. We just, we like plans. You were great for me. And I just want to put it out there that I think you would be great for any pharmacist out there who's looking to launch a podcast. And now I'm going to draw a parallel because pharmacists are one of the most accessible healthcare professionals in the country. I would say that you're about the most accessible podcasting coach I can think of. So there's a parallel for you. So thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's again, I've been in that situation. When I was my original degree, I have two. I have one in electronics and one in teaching. And when I was getting my electronics degree, I had a teacher that would just come in and just spew jargon and would almost laugh when he would assign the homework because we were all just like, I have no idea what this guy just said. And to me, I just remember feeling like I was locked out. Like there's information out here and I can't quite, find the right combination. And if you got the guy one-on-one, he wasn't bad, but in the classroom, he was just horrendous. And I just thought, I just remember the frustration of sitting there going, I don't understand anything you just said. Is there a way, so I want to, again, kind of find a way that if you're a person that needs it one-on-one, email doesn't work for you or whatever it is, that's there. And you mentioned the Journey podcast. I think my favorite example of that is Joanna Penn is a person that wanted to write a book. And she was really new to like being an independent author, no publisher, things like that. So she just started interviewing other people that had either done that or publishers and things like that. And that's one of the great things about podcasting is people that wouldn't give you the time of day ever. And you say, oh, but would you come on my podcast? They're like, oh, where do I sign up? I would love to come share my knowledge. But not only that, but you then also start to build that relationship. I have a client of mine that did a podcast and I asked him, I'm like, so how are your download numbers? And he's like, they're okay. And I'm like, well, are you getting any feedback? He's like, a little. And I'm like, okay, let's back up. What's your why again? And he goes, oh, that's easy. I get to talk to people I have no business talking to. And he goes, I couldn't get past the gatekeepers and things like that. And he goes, and now I'm building relationships with people like that. So there are a lot of fun reasons. And there are a lot of times when you're thinking, oh, I couldn't do that. Marcy Rosenbaum was the typical kind of empty nester. What am I going to do now? She had all this great business history and working with companies and things like that. And she called me up and said, I'm never going to be able to do a podcast, but you say you can make me do a podcast. So have fun because this is never going to work. My VCR is flashing 12 o'clock for those of us that remember VCRs. And I don't know, maybe a month later, she called me up crying. And I go, Marcy, what's wrong? And she's like, I'm in iTunes. And I'm like, what? She goes, I'm in iTunes. And she said, you told me I could do this. And I kept telling you, no, I can't. And you kept saying, yes, you can. And now I'm in Apple. And I was like, yeah, I told you could do this. So if you're that person that thinks technology and me aren't friends, if you can attach a file to an email, then you can upload a file to your media host. If you can press record on a VCR or DVD, or for those that remember cassette decks, well, then you can press record on Audacity. Most of us already know how to talk. And the beautiful thing is there's this thing called editing. So when you say something, you just go, oh, wait a minute. And you go back and you cut that out and you sound brilliant. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh, you make it sound easy. For me, I already knew how to record, edit, and produce audio because of my voiceover industry training.
Mhm.
I came in with a bit of an advantage, and I'll admit it. But the way that you organize the information, like you were saying, you helped me discover my why and talk it out. And I think I even put my description, my show description out there on the Facebook group for the School of Podcasting Facebook group to say, hey, I understand what you're trying to do based on this paragraph that you put here. I think people on iTunes or whatever podcast app they would see it on would understand what I'm trying to do. I was trying to share my journey from pharmacist to voice actor and alternate shows between the solo shows and the interview shows and who was going to be my guests on the interview shows. Well, I articulated that people that use their voice to advocate, educate, or entertain. I felt like reassured. I was in the right place, doing the right things. And you made me feel like I had it. And seriously, it sometimes is like Dumbo with the feather. You think you think that you can fly, but you're not sure, and you just want that feather, or you just need that coach to reassure you that you're on the right path, or just to have a bunch of like-minded people to present ideas to and say, if I put this out there, do you understand? Before I put it out to the rest of the world. And that was the value of the group. They would weigh in on things. That is so valuable. I love having a community. It's great.
Well, and a lot of times I will walk somebody through a podcast, and when they actually get it out and it's public, they're like, okay, now what? And I go, well, that's it. Now you just do another episode. And they're like, yeah, I know, but like, there's got to be more to this. And I'm like, no, actually, at this point, you just list your podcast in all these directories and you just keep making episodes. And they're like, yeah, okay, I know you keep saying that, but really what's next? And I go, that's it. It's really not as hard as you think. And, the courses you start off with things like planning your podcast. And then now that you kind of know what you want to do, here are some tips on equipment because, you don't need this because you're not doing that type of podcast. So now you've got your equipment. And then from there, you can learn how to record. And now that I have something to record, I need some place to put it. Okay, so here are some tutorials on Libsyn and Blueberry and all these other media hosts. And now how do I publish? It's just, okay, now that's done. Now do this. Okay, great. Now that's done. And all of a sudden they go, okay, what's next? And you're like, that's it. You're up and running. Now just keep doing episodes and listen to your audience. And it's amazing how many times people have said, yeah, but seriously, like, there's got to be more to it. I'm like, no, really, that's it. So
that's why you got to know your why. Once you're up and running, you got to just keep producing whatever it is that's the reason that you were there. For me, it was a business tool to get my brand out there so people understood I'm a pharmacist and a voice actor. Yes, I have the podcast. That's how I'm branding myself. And also, I expanded my network, my people that I know, by bringing them on the show. Then their people get to hear them have a conversation with me, and it brands me in that guest's mind and the people who listen to that podcast from their network. And it's like that ripple effect. So many people now know me, and I've used social media to help get my podcast announcements out there. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I constantly post, and then people like, comment on, or share that. And I get all kinds of connection requests all the time, and my network continues to grow. Honestly, mission accomplished. This podcast has done exactly what I wanted it to do, and it continues to do that. And I'm getting better at being myself on the podcast because I have a child with a disability, and raising him is such a time-intensive endeavor. I have isolated myself for years, and I think people are starting to get it because of this pandemic. I have withdrawn myself from a lot of social activity so that I can focus on him, and then me getting myself back out there and talking to people and talking about myself. It is not easy, but this podcast has helped. So it's a bit therapeutic as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I always say, people always go, should I do a interview show or should I do a solo show? And I'm like, why are you pigeonholing yourself? Because when you do a interview show, like you mentioned, you build your network and you are now, dropping little seeds of relationships with people that can sometimes blossom into partnerships and other things like that. I got a job. I mean, I work at a podcast media hosting company because I knew the people that hired me. How did I get to know them? They knew me through my podcast. But when you also do a solo show, which I realize is really weird to just be talking to the wall, it takes a little getting used to.
Yes.
But when you do that, you actually now build your influence. Because I always tell people, if you do a solo show, I know every YouTuber starts off every video with like, hey guys. I'm like, don't do that. Like, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so glad you're here. I said, if you can, talk to one person. Because when I go to these events and I'll have people say, when I listen to your podcast, it just feels like you're talking to me. And I go, it's because I am. So, it's amazing how that works that way. And so don't limit yourself to one or the other. And, it'll be, and you will find out things. I just had somebody today submit a thing. They said, hey, here's some topics I wish you would talk about. And that's like, it's like right on the platter. Here's what I want. And it was, what are the different types of podcasts? Like I just mentioned, there's interviews and there's solo stuff, but you can break it down even more than that. And I said, you know what? That's a great idea for January, because in January, I usually do a couple episodes that are really for, hey, I'm just starting my podcast. How do I get off the ground kind of stuff? And so it's a lot of fun, and there are a lot of interesting benefits that you never even think about. So like I said, I've actually had 3 jobs because of podcasting. I got hired to be the head of a big kind of conference that was going on at the time called the New Media Expo. At the time, it was the biggest blogging and video conference, and they started a podcast track. So I got hired to do that for a year before the guy that was running the whole thing steered it right into the wall. That was fun to watch. And then I got hired at a local college where I was applying to be a teacher, and I ended up kind of getting into like a counselor kind of thing. But the reason that I stood out is they said, what do you do as a hobby? And I go, oh, I like to podcast. And they go, oh, wait, you do podcasting? So it's just always kind of fun. And like I said, I got a job at a media hosting company. So the beautiful part of that is my background was in teaching. And I was teaching a lot of Microsoft Office and QuickBooks and things like that. Well, nowadays, kids are born with a mouse in their hand. They don't need to learn how to do Microsoft Office. They're born with that knowledge. So I could kind of see where that was going down, and I could see where podcasting was going up. And it's just a case because I had positioned myself as a podcast expert, and these other podcast media hosting companies knew me because I had them on my show. It was I called up my now boss, and I said, this could be a really awkward conversation. And he said, okay, what's going on? I said, I have bad news and good news. And he goes, oh, I'll play. What's the bad news? I go, I just lost my job. And he goes, and the good news is? And I said, I'm available to work for you, buddy. And he said, well, I would say I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm not. He goes, what are you doing the rest of the day? And I said, I'm walking to my car, probably laundry, and about halfway on the way home, I got a call from the president of the company. We did a phone interview, and I've been there now 5 years. So you never know what's going to happen.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a great company. The thing I love about it is I used to go to all these events back when we could go to events, and I would have to take vacation time. Well, now I go, and yes, I have to work a booth, but I'm still there, and I still get to talk to people at night and things like that. So it's a great fit. And it's one of those where people go, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, hopefully right here. So pretty happy where I'm at.
I have yet to have those in-person conference experiences where I meet people and put them on the show, but I can only imagine how many times you go to a conference and you get an interview. In fact, I think that is how you met Jennifer Navarrete. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I just finished the 30-day NaPodPoMo challenge. I think I said it wrong the whole entire 30 days. I think I said NaPodPoMo. I don't know. How did you say it?
Yeah, that's how I would say it.
NaPodPoMo?
Yeah.
I've heard it both ways. And as a pharmacist, I'm anal about everything. I want to do things the right way. And then as a voice actor, you have to research pronunciations. And I thought to myself afterwards, and I heard some of the participants calling it NaPodPoMo. I was like, oh, I'm going to have a really hard time forgiving myself if I pronounced it the wrong way for 30 days in a row. But I honestly don't know, and I should have researched that better. But anyways, that is where you met her, and then you did the 30-day NaPodPoMo challenge as well, right?
Yeah, I did, and that's not an easy challenge. It's for me, I have a podcast called Building a Better Dave, which is my therapy. There are times when I just want to spew things into the universe and get it off my chest, or typically I'm trying to make people laugh, cry, think, groan, or educate or entertain. But in some cases, it's just like, okay, I got nobody to talk to right now. I'm going to throw this out there. And so I tried to do 30 days of that. And what was really interesting about it is there were times when I was just literally talking off the top of my head. And the podcast consultant in me was like, this is horrible. You don't know if this is going to resonate with your audience or not, and whatever. And sure enough, I then did an episode where I actually shared that. I'm like, I don't know if you guys are even appreciating this. I go, I don't think it's any good. I don't get it. And my audience came out of the woodwork and said, this is really interesting. This is, something we don't get to see. We're getting inside the head of Dave Jackson. I go, it's pretty empty in there, really. They're like, no, this is cool. So you kind of never know what's going to catch people's attention and keep it and things like that. But it was one of those, after 30 days, I was like, okay, I don't have to do a podcast today. Thank goodness. So it's, but what's great about that particular exercise is you do end up just by the end of it, you're so comfortable recording because it's just like time to press record again. And so it's a bit of a baptism by fire. But on the other hand, one of my other backgrounds is music. I used to play in bands, and you start off and you're awful, but if you keep playing that same song enough and enough, you're like, hey, look, we actually got through without stopping. It wasn't a train wreck of an ending or whatever. And it's just practice. And so that's the other thing. Everything you record, you do not have to release. In fact, I would prefer you not. I think my record is 4. I'd been thinking about it all week, what I was going to talk about on my show. And I was kind of running it through my head as I was driving back to my house. I sit in front of the microphone and I was like, I should probably write down some bullet points because I'm a little ADD, but I didn't because heck, I know what I'm doing. I'm Mr. Podcast Guy. I hit record and tangents so plenty. 20 minutes later, I'm like, well, that was horrible. You know what? I know what I'm going to talk about. No tangents this time. Hit record, tangents all over the place, and I'm like, okay, enough with this. I'm going to do it right this time. 3 times. No, still kind of making up things as we go along. I wrote down some bullet points and recorded it. The 4th time was like, yeah, note to self. Bullet points are your friend, Dave. Don't do that.
I have to practically write my show notes before I record. So I try to organize my thoughts so they're in order. And then I end up having the bullet points and I talk about them during the podcast, and I screw up and I cut something out and I redo it and whatever. And thank God my solo podcasts are pretty short because, I wouldn't want to do that for, a whole hour. Interviews are a lot easier in my opinion, because all you have to do is hit record and you take out any edit points, if somebody sneezes or needs to get a drink. I think they're pretty easy, really. But anyways, back to the conference idea. I want to say that if a pharmacist out there who's listening, or a healthcare professional, maybe it's a nurse, a doctor, many people have reached out to me. I just want to plant the seed that if you are a podcaster and you go to a conference for your specialty, for example, I am just an Ohio pharmacist, right? I'm not practicing right now. But if I went to the Ohio Pharmacists Association annual conference and I set up a booth and I have my vinyl backdrop with my brand on it, and I have a podcasting microphone for myself and one for a guest, and it says, would you like to be on the Pharmacist Voice podcast? I think I would have people in and out of that chair all day long, just wanting to say who they are, what they're all about, maybe where they work, shout out to all the pharmacists in the world. Would you say that that is a good opportunity for pharmacists who want to start a podcast?
Oh, it's huge. I have, you mentioned my book earlier, Profit from Your Podcast, and I have an example of a guy called Glenn the Geek. He runs the Horse Radio Network. He has a website, horseradionetwork.com. I think there's 16 different podcasts all about horses. And he went to one of the largest kind of horse conventions and said, hey, I'd like to be your official podcast of the convention. And of course, the convention was like, what's a podcast? And he's like, okay, here's the deal. I just need a booth at your place. I'll get myself there. And here's how you're going to benefit, Mr. or Mrs. Event coordinator. I'm going to interview all your sponsors, and I'm going to interview all of your speakers at the event. And of course, we'll be talking about just making it sound like, look, if you're not at this event, you're going to miss it. We're going to just increase the whole fear of missing out. And all I need is a booth. And so the first year they gave him like this booth in the back, like, oh, here, you can have this thing. And he did exactly what he said. He had a backdrop. He had 2 mics there. And even, I don't think he even recorded anybody there. It was just like, hey, what are the 2 microphones there for? And this looks like something's going on over here. And he interviewed all of the speakers there, growing his network, which gave him great content for his podcast. And then he interviewed all the sponsors. And the sponsors went, so wait, what do you do again? And he's like, oh, I do like this, internet radio show. It's all about horses. And they like, so you have horse people listening to your podcast? He's like, uh-huh. And they went, so how much is it to sponsor your show? And he said he got like 70% of his sponsors came from that event, and then they don't leave because he's got their target audience. And so he goes back every year, and he says every year it's weird. He goes, I get a better booth. And he goes, and now if I leave the booth for any period of time, maybe I go, he goes, I will come back and there'll be like yellow sticky notes from sponsors or whatever, like, hey, we'd like to be on your show. He goes, so now he's kind of the expert. It's like, oh, if you're going to do any kind of podcasting in the horse space, or if you want to get your, people talk about these hard to reach areas. And I'm helping somebody right now that's all about, and I can't even say it. It's so medical. Neuro, some sort of cancer, something. But just trust me, it's like, wow, that's a niche. And I love it because when I listen to it, I don't understand a thing they're saying. It's all super medical cancer stuff. But the people who listen to it are like, oh my gosh, you guys did a podcast for me. So when you kind of niche down into your area and you go to these events, the other thing I didn't even mention, the people that were stopping by are his target audience. The listeners were there as well. So he got sponsors, he grew his network, and he got to, interact with his target audience. It's a win-win. And now it's a case where it's like pending no pandemics going, that's like an annual event that he does now.
Oh, that's a good piece of information, I think, for anybody who's starting a podcast, an opportunity rather. They need to know that if there is a conference for their specialty, they can rent a booth, set up, find out what their target audience's problems are, and talk about them. Sponsorships, I hadn't really looked into yet as an individual, but I know that's something that others probably will pursue a little bit more aggressively. I'm going to switch topics just a tiny little bit here. We're going to talk about your book, Profit from Your Podcast, Proven Strategies to Turn Listeners into a Livelihood. I'm going to make another parallel here. Pharmacists love case studies. We talk about, you're laughing already. We'll say KN has hypertension and she needs to improve her numbers from this to that. And they'll stop in a conference and say, who has ideas on how to do this? And they'll have a medication list and say, what should she stop and what should she start, and so on and so forth. You, in this book, have all kinds of what I would call case studies. You have people who have profited from their podcast. You name them, their podcast. And I would love for you to talk about the book and maybe a couple of the case studies of where people have profited from their podcast.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite examples, because what I wanted to avoid, the original version of that book was written years ago. And because, the internet, things change, there wasn't anything about crowdfunding. It was called More Podcast Money. And so just a little because of my podcast, to start this off, I decided to rewrite it. And in the process, as I was rewriting it, I was just going to distribute it independently. An actual publisher found me and said, hey, what would you think about writing a book about podcast monetization? I was like, oh, it's funny you should ask. I'm doing that right now. So that was kind of fun. I got a publisher through that. And I think one of my favorite examples is Mark. He does a show called Beyond. It's about New Orleans, Beyond Bourbon Street. And what's great about this is Mark is a guy that grew up in I'm from Ohio. I say New Orleans. Down there, it's like New Orleans. and so Mark's from New Orleans, and he wanted to do something that wasn't quite so touristy. And so what he did was he realized that as he's talking about his city, that people are going to come from out of town and they're going to need some sort of tour guide. And so he just started off by saying, hey, if you need a tour guide, there was a company there called Two Chicks Walking Tours. And he goes, oh, yeah, just go visit Two Chicks Walking. And so the one day, the Two Chicks Walking walked over to Mark and said, we don't quite get what this pod thing is, but you've tripled our business. To which Mark said, we should probably talk about a sponsorship then. And they did. And one of the great things about that then is Mark also has a Facebook group. This is a great way to kind of build that community when it's one thing to talk to your audience, but when you get your audience to talk to each other, now you see what's interesting to them and you can be like, oh, that'd be a great topic for an episode. And so he has his community there and he added any sponsors that he has to the community. So it's about time for the Two Chicks Walking contract to come back up for their advertising. And Mark just went into the Facebook group and said, hey, has anybody gone on a Two Chicks Walking tour? And he said, hands just came up. Oh, it's great. We love it. That was one of the best tours I've ever been on. So just spewing testimonials. And then he said it was so easy to just walk over and go, so you guys are ready to re-up your contract? And I was like, that is a brilliant idea. And then we talk about pricing in there because sometimes you're like, I don't know what to price. And so Mark just figured it out that like, hey, if somebody comes to New Orleans to stay, he goes, hey, I'm not going to send them to a Holiday Inn or any of your typical chain things. There's a hotel there that's just dripping of old New Orleans. And so he went to them and was like, let's see, it's X amount a night. And if somebody comes, they're probably going to stay at least 2 nights, maybe 3, but we'll go with 2. And they're probably going to bring a friend because who wants to go on a tour by themselves? Okay. And so I'm just going to charge them for the price of X amount of people that I think I can bring. And he went to them and said, here's what I think, here's what we can do. And what Mark does is he meets with that hotel on a regular basis to make sure it's still a win-win, because Mark's getting a win because he's getting paid, but also he's delivering a great experience to the listener. So the listener's winning, and then the hotel's winning because they're making enough money to pay for it. And it's just a case where they constantly are, I would love to talk to him now, especially with all this pandemic going on, like how are they handling that and things like that. So that's another great example. And then there's one of the people I interviewed does a show about global warming. And what he wanted to do was start a nonprofit. Now, if you ever look into this, it's not as easy as it sounds. You actually have to have a board and who helps direct it and, all sorts of government paperwork you have to fill out. And he found out that you can actually become a nonprofit by going underneath somebody else's nonprofit. And then what happens is people donate to kind of the parent nonprofit, and the money then trickles down through them to him. It actually ends up on a debit card. Like when people donate, he just it's like, hey, you've got money on your card. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And it's really, obviously the nonprofit is going to take a fee for that, but it's really not that different than anything else like a Patreon or any of these other crowdfunding places. Well, then he also, and this happens a lot, you don't realize what kind of products are available or what your audience needs until you jump into the pool. And so he starts off and he finds out that there are all these kind of global warming science type people, and they're writing these really long, really boring, nobody's ever going to read this white paper. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, hey, instead of spending thousands of dollars on this white paper, why don't we take that content? You give me the thousands of dollars and we'll turn that into a podcast that's a little more entertaining, a little more engaging. And oh, by the way, already has your target audience listening to it. And that was when I was like, that's a pretty cool idea. So that was just a matter of kind of diving into your community, finding out what's going on. And in this case, he found somebody that needed to get the word out about their white paper. And he's like, hey, by the way, I have this over here. So there's all sorts of different people that are using crowdfunding and affiliate stuff. And the examples in many cases are mine, but I didn't want it just to be Dave going, here's how you make money. It's like, because again, maybe it's the logical side of me. It's like, here's what I think. And oh, by the way, here's why I think it. This is what these people did. And this is why it's working. So it wasn't enough. I've read so many books on how to monetize your podcast, and it's 7 chapters of how to launch one and like 1 chapter on how to do affiliate marketing. And I was like, no, there's so many more ways than that. So it took me a while to put together. but I'm pretty proud of it. And I've had Chris Krimitsos is a guy that runs Podfest in Orlando. It's a big, huge podcast event. And he just said, and he's a good friend of mine. He would let me know if it wasn't any good. And he said, if anybody asks me, how do I make money with a podcast? He goes, I'm just going to hand them your book. He goes, this is really good. And I was like, great. Because like I said, once I was at a conference with Chris, we were actually sharing a hotel room, and I accidentally, you know how contents may have shifted while flying, and I went to shave, and my razor had changed to where it was really, really short, and I shaved a giant strip in my beard, and I walked out, and I go, Chris, if I shave another matching strip on the other side of my face so it looks like I did this on and he just went, no. So you need somebody to be honest with you to say, yeah, just shave that off. So if my book wasn't any good, he would have said, yeah, it was okay. But he was like, no, this is really, really good. So that's always good to hear after you spent months, working on something.
Oh, Dave. Oh my goodness. I think I heard the story about the shaving incident, but I didn't.
Yeah.
He was the one that pointed it out.
Yeah.
Friend right there.
Because I was like, dude, I need an honest answer here. And it took him all of about 2 seconds to go, no, you just need to shave that off. So luckily hair grows back.
There's a lot in this book, and I just want to congratulate you on writing it. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And where can people find this book if they would like to purchase it?
Yeah, it's I have a podcast about the book called Profit from Your Podcast. So you can find that at profitfromyourpodcast.com, which gives you kind of more insights into other things that either didn't make the book or things of that nature. But yeah, that's all over at profitfromyourpodcast.com.
All right. And they can buy it on Amazon also?
Yep. And soon, probably somewhere in 2021, there will be an audiobook version of that. And I'm already having fun with that because, as we mentioned earlier, sometimes Dave will take a tangent. And I just started off the book and I said, here's the deal. I'm going to read this book to you, but I'm going to pretend you're sitting on the other side of the table. And if something has changed or something has been added, so there's going to be extra kind of content in the audiobook once it gets done. But it was one of those things. I recently moved and that kind of got put back. And I've had other people say that's good because I can kind of really focus on the book version. And when the audiobook is available, especially if it has bonus content, I can almost do like another product launch. So I was like, well, I didn't know I was doing something smart. I just had to put it on the back burner for a bit, but it's on its way.
I definitely am interested in the audiobook. I know I've already purchased the paperback version, but still, I would listen to the audiobook for sure. That's my preferred way to consume books right now.
That's it. And I always love the fact if I'm reading a book from somebody I know, it's still, I hear their voice as I'm reading the words. Like if I read a book by Pat Flynn, I hear Pat Flynn in my head, reading to me. So it's fun.
Oh, that's great. Dave, before we wrap this up, I want to ask you a question. How can an independent pharmacy be a business with a podcast without having to go to the trouble of learning all this recording stuff and uploading and editing and all this stuff? What are your thoughts on that?
It's great for businesses if you have those questions that like you kind of like, look, we all love our customers, but if you have to answer that question again, you kind of roll your eyes. Those are great episodes because now when somebody, like for me, if somebody says, what's the best microphone under $100? I will answer them and say the ATR 2100X, blah, blah, blah. But I can also say, I will answer and said, for more information, listen to this episode. Well, while they're over there and they listen to that episode, they're going to go, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And they will download your entire back catalog. And what's great about that is now you end up with a customer that's more informed. And so as a business, you don't have to spend so much time on the 101 stuff. They're really ready to roll with whatever product you have. And I always say your podcast isn't really the business, it's your business card. And so that's how it really, I had somebody once drive from Minnesota to Georgia. And I'm weird. I have a phone number on my website, and occasionally I will actually answer that phone. It rings to my cell phone. And he called, and I'm like, hey, this is Dave. And he's like, Dave Jackson? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, for real? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you answer your phone? Yes, it's me, And he said, I'm driving from Minnesota to Georgia. I've been listening to you nonstop for about 3.5 hours. And he goes, I don't know what my podcast is going to be about, but you're my dude. So you end up making warm leads as opposed to a Facebook ad that you hope is getting in front of the right people. You're now kind of building that conversation and that relationship with people. And I realize, especially if you're running your own business, I always say you're going to pay in one of two currencies. You're either going to pay in time or money. And a lot of times you're like, okay, well, I have no time. And it really doesn't have to be a ton of cash. You can hire out somebody to, and edit your audio and the artwork is another thing that can be done fairly inexpensively. And so you can easily hand this off to people. And that's one of the things is the more popular podcasting gets, the more these kind of services are popping up because more and more people are saying, I like this podcasting thing. I'm getting great results. I just don't have time to do it. And that's what's kind of weird. You end up making your own problem. It's like, well, I had X amount of money or X amount of business. I started a podcast. It's bringing in so much business that I don't have time to do the thing that's bringing me the business. And that's where you farm it out to somebody. And there are tons of people that can help you with the audio editing and they'll write, a blog post for you. All this stuff, you don't have to do it. So, and in some cases that makes more sense because your expertise is running your business, not how to edit out ums and run noise reduction and all this other stuff. Let somebody who does that do that. Let you go back to running your business. So yeah, you don't have to do this stuff all yourself if you don't want to.
Great point. Yeah. I know I kind of started with an advantage because I know how to record, edit, and produce audio, but I definitely would recommend if anybody out there wants to start a podcast and you don't know how to do it, talk to Dave. He's got all kinds of ideas like that one he just gave there. Thanks, Dave.
Oh, thank you. This has been a blast.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to share before we wrap this up and end the interview?
No, if you have any questions on anything, as Kim has said, you don't have to twist my arm very hard to answer podcast questions. It's what I love to do. It's my passion. And you can come visit me over at schoolofpodcasting.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. Have a good weekend.
You too. Take care.
Thank you for joining me for episode 79 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Visit thepharmacistvoice.com to subscribe and read the show notes.